All right, fellas, looks like we have a trade on our hands here, and one that I did not expect to happen this soon, but the New York Knicks have traded for OG Anunoby. This morning, the New York Knicks and the Toronto Raptors, well, this morning Pacific time for me, but definitely around noon Eastern time, but the Knicks and the Raptors have completed a trade that will send OG Anunoby, Precious Achiuwa, Malachi Flynn to the New York Knicks for RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, who is free from the clutches of Tom Thibodeau, as well as a 2024 second-round pick. OG Anunoby was for sure going to decline his player option and become an unrestricted free agent this summer to get a lot of money, so the Raptors just couldn't let him walk after they did the same thing for Fred VanVleet last year and just watched him walk. And when it was clear the Raptors should have blown it up last year, but now they have finally caught on. Masai has caught on. And I know Raptors fans get angry whenever people on the outside point that out, but it is what it is. I have kind of warmed up to the fact that this trade is definitely a win-win trade. Just first blush thinking about it. I was doing some stuff this morning, so I didn't have time to make a really quick first blush reaction. I've had a few hours to think about it now. And I've kind of liked this deal for both sides. At first, I liked it for the Raptors a lot more, and I still do. But with where the Knicks are right now, with where they needed their financial resources allocated to certain positions, like, is RJ Barrett at $25 million a year worth it, basically, with Brunson and RJ Barrett in the backcourt? And the answer was no. They needed a big two-way wing. It turns out, according to Fred Katz of The Athletic, the Knicks have been needing a two-way wing for a long time, or they've been wanting a two-way wing for a long time, and they targeted OG last year. So they get their guy, really good catch-and-shoot player, really good transition player, has been allegedly wanting to expand his role on offense, but is just a porous pick-and-roll player. But this is kind of the guy that's perfect to play off of Brunson, to play off of Randall. And it really sucks that Mitchell Robinson's injury happened, because I really, really would have liked this Knicks team with the defensive combination of Mitchell Robinson and his rebounding to go along with OG. But I still like this trade for the Knicks. It sucks that they're going to have to give up Emmanuel Quickley, who we will talk about in a second. But with the versatility OG brings, being able to guard 1 through 5 legitimately, like he's one of the few players in the NBA that can do that, I think this was worth it for the Knicks. They can definitely now go with some interesting small ball lineups, like I'm imagining Jalen Brunson, DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, OG, and Julius Randle. Or you could just do something like Quentin Grimes and play OG at the 5 if Randle, say, has a bad game or whatever, and you need to make some changes. The Knicks have a lot of optionality now, which I like. They're definitely going to have some stuff to figure out, and just how much teams really respect OG Anunoby's catch-and-shoot numbers. He's been a good shooter his whole career, but will that really change the calculus in a playoff series if the game plan going in is to pack the paint? We'll see how that develops throughout the year. But overall, I really like this for the Knicks because they didn't have to give up all their first-round picks. They could still make a Godfather offer for, say, somebody like Donovan Mitchell if he becomes available. And you have OG Anunoby's bird rights, obviously, if he declines that player option, and you can offer him a big contract. Precious Achiuwa, his minutes per game was going down every year, but when he first got to Toronto, he, I thought, was very effective as a small ball 5. Nick Nurse used him really effectively, and I could definitely see him being a backup for the Knicks and seizing that backup role now that Isaiah Hartenstein has been starting. But Precious Achiuwa is somebody that could add maybe a small ball 5 option. He shot 36% from 3 when he first got to Toronto, but it's been really bad ever since. But maybe a change of scenery would help. I'm sure Tom Thibodeau is going to find ways to pull out his defensive potential. And then Malachi Flynn, he can maybe compete for a rotational backup guard spot. So I like this trade in the aggregate for the Knicks. For the Raptors, real quickly, I'm just kind of shocked that they didn't get as much draft compensation as I would have thought, considering all the reports about OG Anunoby's price. I mean, last year everybody was saying that multiple teams have offered the Raptors multiple first-round picks, and the Raptors decided against that to kind of double down and build a win-now roster, trading for Jakob Poeltl at the trade deadline and doubling down on the clogged toilet half-court offense, which was sort of alleviated with the Van Vliet Jakob Poeltl pick and roll. But Masai has smartened up. He let Fred Van Vliet walk last summer for nothing. He couldn't let that happen with OG. That just would have been straight up malpractice as a general manager. To see this Raptors team that is 12-19, you have this budding star in Scotty Barnes who has taken a massive leap this year. You just can't do nothing and let OG and Pascal Siakam walk for free. And Adrian Wojnarowski reported that the Raptors are looking to trade OG Anunoby. I have a sneaking suspicion a team out in the Bay Area might be involved in that at some point, but we will see. But you get Emmanuel Quickley, you get RJ Barrett, who I know, yes, he has not been good for a lot of his career. He hasn't developed the way that people thought. But there are still stretches where I just can't let go of my stock just yet. We'll see how he does in a new situation. I will always have faith in the lefties. He's playing in his home city, his home country, so maybe that'll change things. But Emmanuel Quickley is the one guy I am very excited about for the Raptors to get. A young guard that fits really well off of Scotty Barnes theoretically. I am very interested to see what a two-man game between Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickley looks like. I think Emmanuel Quickley is very underrated. For some reason, just with Tom Thibodeau, man, I just don't get it with him sometimes. Because it was clear Emmanuel Quickley has been an impact player the moment he was drafted. And he's a really good shooter, really good defender, especially at the point of attack. His ability to get around screens is just something that's very rare in the NBA and an underrated skill of his. And the Raptors end up getting a really good guard, averaging 15 points a game, shooting 40% from three. That floater of Emmanuel Quickley's is deadly. He's shooting 51% in the floater area. He's just somebody that I could really see fitting well off of Scotty Barnes. And he's a restricted free agent, so you can control his contract. I get this move for the Raptors. Very surprised at the lack of draft compensation. They only got a second-round pick, which will come via the Detroit Pistons. So that will be a high second-round pick. But I expected a lot more for OG. But again, he was an expiring. The time to trade OG would have been last year. But given the circumstances, and given the fact that they have some young players who have been on a winning team before in the New York Knicks, I think this is a good move for the Raptors. I'm just really high on Emmanuel Quickley because he just does stuff on the court and is efficient in areas that make me think he has a lot of upside, especially if you give him the starting role, which he hasn't been able to start often for the Knicks. He's mostly been coming off the bench, been a perennial Sixth Man of the Year candidate, was again this year. But now he gets a fresh start, and that is a 24-year-old guard, to pair off of your budding 22-year-old star. RJ Barrett, 24, 25 years old. So the timeline matches up with Scotty Moore. Now the question is, what do they do with Pascal Siakam? I just think for sure he's got to be traded at some point. You can't let Pascal walk for nothing, especially at 29 years old. He's in his prime. A lot of contenders, I am sure, are going to be looking for. There's not a lot of high echelon star players on the market, and Pascal Siakam can pass as one of them, and you just got to get something of value for him. Now the timeline should solely focus on building around Scotty Barnes, and I think the Raptors have done a good job of that. Not as good as I thought maybe, but they did a good job regardless. Overall, I like this trade for both teams. Like I said, I was leaning more towards Raptors, but the Knicks getting OG, adding some more versatility, and increasing their playoff odds, which is the direction the Knicks want to go clearly, and I have to factor that into the calculus. I think both teams came out clean in this deal.